But we're going to go ahead and call the meeting for April 20th to order. First matter is going to be adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion regarding the agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as written.
I second.
Motion's been made and properly second. I'm going to have Cornelia call the roll.
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Here.
Lindsay. Here. Clark,
Yes.
Johnson. Johnson. Coach V.
Hello.
Coach V.
Coach V said his phone was freezing or computer was freezing.
Oh, okay. Johnson, they're adopting the agenda. I need a vote.
I said yes.
Oh, okay. Coach V said his phone is freezing.
He said his computer was freezing.
Okay.
I think he's about to dial in on his phone though.
Okay. Miss Lisa, you want to proceed and
Yeah, we have enough. The motion carries.
And so even though
There he is.
Huh?
V's on now.
Okay.
hey,
Steven.
Coach V.
He's got his thing muted. I can see it. Come on, V.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, we just had a motion and a second to approve the adoption of the agenda.
All right, I'm good. Aye.
Okay. So your
Okay.
vote is yes.
All right,
Yes.
so motion passed.
All right. Next order is going to be the adoption of the minutes from the February 23rd regular board meeting and the April 2nd special call board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made and properly second. All those in favor, Cornelia?
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay, yes, Clark,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Pinagopo.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next order is going to be the financial report by Ms. James.
good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
It's not great. I can hear you, but it's not great.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Somewhat. Somewhat.
Try to talk, shout.
Okay.
Ms. Watson, is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen?
You're on mute, Lakita. Ms. Watson.
My apologies. I'm not used to being muted, but because I didn't know if the dog was going to say hello. My apologies, Brandy. I do have the general fund revenue expenditure PowerPoint up. If you would like for me to unshare my screen, if you have a different screen.
Is that the one that I sent this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am. If you could slide up if you have it available.
So maybe this is the first slide on mine. I can unshare so you can go ahead and take the lead from here.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. I'll unshare and my share is stopped. There you go, ma'am.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about our normal update as far as our general fund revenue expenditures, as well as our enterprise. And then I'm also going to go through some potential or forecasted impacts of the COVID-19 losses to revenue and any impacts to expenses. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me as I'm going through. So again, what I'm going to go over first is our normal update on our revenues and expenditures. And what you have there is a graph of what our actual revenues and expenditures are for our general fund for the 9 months ended March 31st, 2020. And you'll see there that our actual administrative revenues are up approximately 8%, and that's just a factor of increased property tax revenues. But you'll also see that our program revenues, however, are down when you could look at it compared to last year, this same time. And they're down approximately $100,000 or about 10%. And the major driver of that decrease is obviously the impacts of closing our buildings and facilities on our March's revenue, program revenue. Just to give you an impact of what that was, our parks and rental revenue decreased approximately $33,000 in March when compared to last year, as well as our after-school revenue, we saw a decrease of about $17,000. So if you total that together, of the $100,000 that we are saying is lower, about $50,000 of that was realized in March. Again, not related to COVID-19 closures. Our actual expenses for the 9 months ended March 31st are up approximately 17%. And what's driving those increases are obviously increases to our salaries and benefits. We also have seen some increases related to professional services, and that's related to temporary labor as well as some audit and consulting fees. We've also seen increases in program expenses and increases in our safety and security expenses, primarily related to security monitoring as well as safety training. I'll pause there. Are there any questions on the general fund revenue and expense update?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Okay.
The $100,000, how bad is that going to affect us overall?
I will walk through that in the COVID update. So I'd rather wait to answer that question. Just give me a few more slides, and then I'll get there to how we're projecting what this COVID loss is going to do to our overall revenues and expenses.
So, Brandy, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So the expenses, obviously for 2020, seem to be down on administrative quite a bit.
And that's primarily a function of we have reclassed some of our community relations personnel expenses out of administrative and into their own division. So that's part of the impact of that decrease.
So essentially, if you took community relations and administrative and added them together, you'd get 2,000,009 versus 3,500. So it's still down over $600,000. It seems like both those. That's a positive, I would think. But is that just because we have less positions that are filled, or salaries?
That is not because of the less positions that are filled. There are some other administrative expenses that are included in there that are down.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I'm going to move to the next slide, which looks at our revenues and expenditures for our enterprise fund. you'll see that our enterprise fund revenues are down, but we did have a good month in March. So when I spoke with you guys in January on the update for the enterprise fund, we were seeing that the average rounds of golf for the year were about 1,400 rounds per month. And that was primarily weather driven. But we have seen with the closures of other recreational facilities, we have seen an uptick in our rounds of golf being played at our Linwood Golf Course. For example, in February, we had about 1,000 rounds of golf that were played, whereas in March, we had 2,101 rounds of golf that were played. So that has helped to fill some of the gap that we saw in revenues, but it's not going to fill the entire gap that we've seen over the year. Our total expenses for the enterprise fund, we are up slightly over last year, and that's just a function of increased payroll and benefit expenses, as well as some increased capital outlay expenses. Okay, are there any questions on the enterprise fund?
Are we still under contract on the cart rentals?
Are you saying leasing
Yeah.
of the carts? Yes, sir, we are. Are there any other questions? Okay, if not, the next few slides again looks at the financial impact of COVID-19 and the closures of our facilities. And so the first slide here, I want to give you a general overview. What I did here was I looked at what our actual revenues and expenditures were, and I forecasted what the potential revenue and expenses would be for the months of April through June. And so on the general fund, the total revenue impact, you'll see we're projecting possibly being at a total revenue of $16,400,000 versus about $16,300,000 last year. So overall, the total impact, it's not. We're projecting that we'll be close to where we were last year, but if you look at the program revenue, the projections, we're projecting that we're only going to reach about $900,000 in program revenue, whereas last year we were at 1.4 million. And obviously that is due to us having to refund back a significant amount of revenue in March. And we're forecasting that we're going to have to refund back approximately $16,000 to our patrons. And we're also forecasting that we will not have any program revenue for the months of April, May, and June. To give you a little perspective of what that impact is, typically we are averaging about $112,000 in program revenue per month. So that if we continue to be closed, we're forecasting that we will not see that revenue for April, May, and June. Are there any questions on that? For our general fund expenditures, what we have done is we have obviously frozen our expenditures as it relates for March, April, May, and June. But our projections are based upon continuing to pay staff at our current levels for payroll and benefit expenses. We're projecting that we're not going to have any program expenses for April, May, or June. And then our operating expenses, we are projecting that obviously we're going to have to continue to pay our fixed charges like utilities. And there are some additional operating expenses related to IT as well as property maintenance that we are planning to continue to have to pay. There is also built into this projection a potential OPEB contribution. And to explain what that is, OPEB is our other post-employment benefit plan expenditures, and that is for our retirees. That allows our retirees to have access to certain health benefits. As a result of that, to reduce the liability related to that plan, we do pay a contribution into the trust fund each year, and we have budgeted that we would pay approximately $949,000 contribution this year. We typically pay that in the spring, but we have not, obviously, as it relates because of some of the potential financial impacts. But I have built that into this forecast to give you what that would look like if we were to pay that contribution.
I have a question. On the retirees' health benefits, do
Yes,
you pay 100% or do you pay partial and they pay part?
They do pay a piece of those premiums, but this contribution that I'm talking about isn't necessarily the premiums that they pay. What we have to do, Ms. Donzetta, is we have to engage an actuarial firm that will look at our plan, look at our expenses and our contributions, and they provide us with what they anticipate that liability will be. And we report that in our audited financial statements each year. And as of audited statement, we're projecting that liability is about $10.3 million. But in order to reduce that liability over the years, what we do is we pay into our trust fund that holds those assets in order to pay those benefits. We pay a contribution amount each year. And so what that $900,000 represents is the required contribution that is needed based on the most recent actuarial study.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions on that? So overall, again, the general fund revenue impact, program revenues are obviously going to suffer, but we're projecting that our administrative revenue will be on target and actually above what we actually received in fiscal year 2019.
So, comment or question, Brandy, the biggest issue is organization that we have to worry about is making sure that we get funded the rest of our taxes that were due from the county.
Correct. So as of March 31st, we've actually received about $14.3 million of property tax revenue. We did budget for and were approved for about $15.4 million. So over the next few months, we are projecting and anticipating that we are going to receive the additional $1 million that we were approved for. And that's what this budget or this forecast assumes as well.
Do you think there's any vulnerability from not getting that amount from the county based on the potential of them not receiving taxation on, you know?
I mean, that is a potential vulnerability. I have not been notified by anyone from the county as that potentially happening, but that is a vulnerability because obviously we can't receive those funds until those taxpayers actually pay those funds into the county. Are there any additional questions on this slide? The next slide actually breaks out that comparison by month. So this takes those numbers on the previous slide and shows you what that looks like again by month. On the left side, that is the general fund administrative revenue projections. And you'll see that, again, we're anticipating that we're going to receive the additional $1 million that is budgeted for and approved from April through June. On the right side looks at our general program revenue. And so for the months of July through March, those are actual numbers. And you'll see again, we're averaging about 100,000+ per month in program revenue. But my projections again are anticipating that we are not going to receive that revenue in April, May, and June, and that we're actually going to have to refund back customers about $16,000 in April. Now that number could change. We are still processing refunds. We've done the mass majority in March, but again, that number could change.
Brandy,
Yes.
with our ability to show the losses, is there anywhere that we can recoup anything from the government with all these packages going out?
Right now, I don't see anything that will allow us to recoup that, but I will continue to research that, Commissioner
Thank
Clark.
you.
Yes.
And Commissioner Clark, we have been participating in the calls from Richland County, and the county has established various programs. We do not have all the details on how those funds would be dispersed on which projects will be impacted, but we are aware that there's some CDBG funding that's a part of that dialogue. And then in addition to that, we are a part of the State Association for Recreation and Parks, a program that will work towards building our plans for reopening, and that includes having connections to state funding through the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So we are definitely looking at documenting all of our activities in case there's other opportunities for FEMA or federal funding.
Great job.
If there are no questions, we can move to the next slide, which is looking at our general fund expenditure monthly comparisons. And again, this is just taking that number on that summary page and show you what that impact looks for the next few months. Again, July through March are our actual expenditures, and April and May and June are what I'm forecasting. The reason why the April number seems to be a little bit high, that is because that assumes that we would make that OPEB contribution in April, and then its premiums that is due every April, and that's about $264,000. Okay. That is it for the general fund potential impact or forecasted impact. The next few slides looks at our enterprise fund impact. Here, this is again a summary of the comparisons of revenue and expenditures. For our total revenue, you'll see for fiscal year 2019, we actually saw about $756,000 in enterprise revenues. But what we're projecting is approximately $652,000. Now this assumes, or this projection for fiscal year 2020 assumes that we will continue to have the golf course open, and that we will see approximately between $52,000 to $53,000 in revenue over the next few months in April, May, June. Again, that is assuming that we continue to keep the golf course open. Our total expenditures, we're projecting to have about $742,000, and compared to $709,000. Again, those are actual expenditures for last year. Our projections for expenditures assumes that we continue to pay our full-time and part-time staff at Limerick at current staffing levels. And it also assumes, obviously, that we will continue to pay those fixed charges of operating expenses like our utilities, as well as some other ground maintenance supply expenses as normal. The next few slides, again, takes that comparison and breaks it out by month. So that's what we're projecting, April, May, and June. Again, we're projecting that, again, if we keep the golf course open, that our enterprise revenues will be about $53,000 a month.
And Brandy, what did you say March revenue was?
March revenue was, hold on one second. Our total March revenue for the enterprise fund for Limerick was $63,600. Again, we did see an uptick in
Yeah, I would assume that April, if things keep trending, I would think April we might, because I would bet you April is going to be close to what it was last year or better. I would assume. If it's not, if we're not as good as April last year, then we need to really look into see what's happening.
Well, in my projections, I wanted to be as conservative as I could, so that's why I took an average of about 53 to 54,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Part-time employees, are they still being paid?
Limerick is continuing to operate as normal. So yes, our part-time staff at Limerick, if they are working, they are continuing to get paid. Yes, ma'am.
They're working if the facilities are closed?
This is just Limerick. Limerick isn't closed. So the only part-time staff that are being paid at, is our Limerick part-time staff, because that facility isn't closed.
In addition, we do have about 4 part-time employees, 3 or 4 that are in the risk management and safety, and they're on a part-time schedule looking at the facilities on a daily basis to ensure they're safe and secure. That's the limit of our part-time employees. Thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions on the projections or potential impact? Say again, I'm sorry.
No, you said good job.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. James.
You're welcome.
All right, we're ready to move on to other business, which will start with the executive director report.
Thank
Ms. Watson.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brandy, again for that report. Provided some really good visuals and some information for us to think about. I'll switch over now to briefly share with you. I won't go into the detail of every item. However, I have emailed it to you for your records, and it will become a part of your documents. And it is our latest update for what the agency has been doing as it relates to our response to COVID-19 and your regular operations. So this information is, I apologize, let me share my screen. So with the COVID-19, staff, of course, as you are aware, we shut down our daily operations at our various facilities. And since that time, we have been working very diligently to keep up with what has been occurring on the local, state, and national level. Each of our reports, we do keep consistent information, as you'll see here in this document, which provides you with a chronological timeline of what we have been participating in, as well as information coming from our local, state, and federal agencies. As of recent, Jamie did provide me with additional information, as the governor did open back up the public boat ramps for use, with, of course, the social distancing guidelines that are required. There has been a lot of information that has come out for the closures. We did provide all employees for our agency that are still on a schedule and are going in and out as it relates to property management and other functions, a letter stating that they are essential employees. So our employees are covered during stay-at-home ordinances that are in place. We are currently just still working. I'm so proud of the team that we have on board. Our deputy director has been working to move the pool process forward. And I know for some of you are like, well, how do we even know we're going to get into the pool? Well, I do believe in planning, and we had already started the process for the RFQ and the IFB process, purchasing, to get a company on board to maintain our aquatic facilities, which is needed. Even if they are currently not open, there are a variety of maintenance issues that we know needed to be taken care of, and this is the perfect time to do so. So if you hear and see that there are individuals, Palmetto Pools did receive that bid, and they are out looking at our facilities. So that is something that we're working on, because we want to make sure that the leaks and things are being taken care of in case we are going to move forward with reopening. And I'll talk a little bit about the potential reopening schedule as I get further through my report. In addition, the finance department is working diligently to ensure that all payroll is being processed, and procurement is working to update the policies and procedures for our procurement. We did receive the grant from the state in the amount of $385,000 for the phased approach for updating Friars Gate. And we're excited because they gave us an extension with everything going on. But we do recognize that this project, this is also good timing for projects like that, because currently the facilities are not being in use. So you'll receive more information as we work through what that process looks like for moving that grant project forward. Our Human Resources Department has remained open and available, even from home, for our employees that have questions about the unemployment process. As we indicated earlier, there are very limited part-time employees that are currently working. Our employees that are full-time are still receiving payroll. So therefore, Human Resources is still reliable, meaning they're there for policy questions, benefit questions, and also we're moving forward with our training. There were some webinars that we had already planned. This is perfect timing. So even when I provide my report to you all, I want you to know that, yes, we're still responding to this pandemic, but we are being very efficient in the work that we're doing to ensure that we're still keeping employees engaged throughout this process. Our risk manager, Natiki Satterwhite, along with our new safety coordinator that came on, have been doing phenomenal work. They're out and about reviewing all of our facilities. We do have some discussion at a later date as we look at the scheduling and when things do get back to normal, or if and when they get back to normal. We want to have some discussion about the Parent Thomas lot and some operations. We did put out the RFP, and we did not receive any responses, but I've directed staff to develop a plan of action that we could bring to the board. As we look at the fact that revenues have been impacted for our agency and the numbers that Randy shared with you in the previous report, we are looking at ways that we can also maximize revenues as an agency, where in the past we've done some things that were third party, and that does include the Parent Thomas lot. So I won't belabor that point today, but I will bring that to your May meeting to discuss some possibilities for your consideration. our recreation division staff, as you know, we are not doing what we're used to doing, and that's interacting with our citizens. So we're working to make sure that the facilities are going to be ready when they come back. So we have been working on planning for our fall programs, as well as reviewing all the inventories at our facilities, and again, keeping the RCRC team engaged via Zoom meetings, as well as in-person meetings, as long as we are practicing the social distancing standards. Each week, I do have a meeting with all of my direct reports and division heads via Zoom, as well as all of the essential employees on Wednesdays to ensure that we're all communicating and on the same page. So communication is going very well. As all of this started, as all of this began to morph into what we didn't realize would be 1 week into now going into 2 months, we had some things in place as your leadership, meaning we had started to work the job classification study and reorganization. That process had already started. So with that, we had 2 new superintendents that actually are being onboarded as we speak that will be joining your team. They have been participating on video calls with us, and I've been prepping them for their arrival into our agency. We do have one of our individuals is joining us, Mr. Matt Krishman. He's joining us from the state of Arizona, and him and his wife have purchased a home here in Lake Carolina, and Matt brings to us enormous experience. I know that he is on the call today, and you will get a chance to meet him, but we're ready to take RCRC to that next level, and it requires us to bring the right people in place to get that done. Matthew is not only a certified youth sports administrator, a certified parks and recreation professional, but he also brings in aquatics experience and athletic experience with bringing in large tournaments, as well as maximizing national opportunities for sports and facilities. He will be joining us in the month of May, but he is on this call and you will have a chance to meet him. In addition to that, we have Darian Alston who will be joining us from the County of Greenville. I had the opportunity to watch and steal him over the last few months, basically a year. He'll be taking over as a park superintendent over property management. Darian brings in years of experience as well, and we're excited about his ability to help move some of these major capital improvement projects, such as Friars Gate, forward. We recognize that we have great team leaders here on our team. We had Kevin that joined us from the state of Georgia, Rome, Georgia. So we got some stuff going on, and when we all get back together, I think that you'll be pretty pleased with the direction that we're looking to go in. Property management and our repairmen have been out on the front line, and I actually met a few individuals out at Denny Terrace, and we'll talk about that later on. So I'll close out my report with community relations. Jamie, this is definitely something that's new for us, and she's killing the game. We have a few glitches here and there, but that's not her fault. It's technology. Things are going to happen. But she's making sure that the citizens are still being engaged with us through social media, our website, as well as a publication that goes out to all of our agency employees. We're taking our programming to the next level. So we've also started some virtual classes. If you have not had the opportunity to like our web pages, please do so. You'll be glad to see that Octavia is starting to go ahead and get some things started out in the community so that when people get ready to come back, they've had the experiences of us virtually and they'll be ready to join all of our programs again. So this report is very extensive. I think that it is important that it is this extensive so that you know that the individuals that you have entrusted with the day-to-day operations are still working. And that concludes my report. If you go through my report and you see that there's some things you want specific detail on, please feel free just to give me a call, shoot me an email, and I will respond. So Madam Chair, that concludes my executive report for today.
Thank you so much. Once again, just like Ms. James, great job putting that together for us. We're going to move on to the Linrick Golf Course operations, and that's Ms. Watson again.
During our last special call meeting, there were some questions about the operation of Limerick. So what we wanted to do today was a two-part report. The first report was provided through what Ms. James shared with you from a financial standpoint. As you do recognize, that is our only enterprise fund that we have in our agency. And even before this pandemic started, we faced some decreases, and we recognized that we were having some issues, and we can't control the weather. But I also want to come back, and this is my second phase of this report. So you saw the financial, what happens if we remain the same, and that is if we remain open. And then you see what will happen, of course, the decreases if we close. I would like to share with you, thank you to Commissioner Lapine for providing me with some information from the State Golf Association, a professional organization, which has provided not only Limerick, but the state, all golf courses around the state of Virginia, the state of South Carolina, and then the national, who has provided it to the entire country. I've been able to go do some research on that as well. So what I'll share with you quickly are the guidelines that we've put in place, and then Madam Chair, I'll defer to you for any additional dialogue or questions that the board might have. So what I'm about to share with you are the guidelines that are currently in place that I have witnessed, as well as our risk manager, to ensure that they were in place. So here we are. And go. So what has been put into place for operational guidance? As you see here, the social distancing rule for 6 feet at all times while on the golf course. Gatherings of 10 or more at the same time are prohibited, so we have not been facing any of that at the Limerick Golf Course, and they have remained 6 feet in separation. There have been single uses of our golf carts, so that has been good to witness in an effort to limit interaction, and then making sure that the players arrive 15 minutes prior to, as well as leaving the course to ensure that we are not having any gatherings. In addition, the playing surfaces, there has been social distancing for 6 feet, and our staff, they're there to encourage this. I received emails from citizens thanking us for enforcing it so that they're able to remain there on site. And then lastly, the golfers have been encouraged to limit their interactions again, and then to utilize for the continual putting, just making sure that they are not crowding at all and maintaining 6 feet. So that's all the information as it relates to what we have put into place that has come from the South Carolina Golf Association in collaboration with the United States Golf Association for guidance for golf courses. And this is how we're currently operating. So Madam Chair, that concludes the report for information that was requested for me to provide the board for current operations. And now I'll defer to you for any discussion.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
We're
Watson.
providing our employees.
Sorry. I'm
Are
sorry.
we providing our employees at Limerick?
I think the question is
Did you
about
hear me?
protective equipment for all employees. Yes, ma'am. They have received protective equipment.
So they're using the mask and the gloves on a daily basis?
Yes, ma'am. From my knowledge, they are. If that has changed, I'm pretty sure. Is E on this call, Jamie?
No, E is not, but Natiki Satterwhite is.
Natiki, is there anything that you would like to add as our risk manager? I know that we have provided them with the items out at the facility.
You are on. Hi, hello everyone. The only other thing that I would add is that they are also disinfecting the golf carts before and after each use. But like I said, I have gone out there. I have witnessed it. I know they have been provided with specific PPE in order, to use on a daily basis. Hello?
Thank you, Natiki.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Did anyone else have any questions?
No, the only other comment I would make, and I think this is great, is Natiki, if you're out there talking to them, a lot of clubs are either putting little pieces of foam into the golf cup, so when the ball hits, it doesn't go way down and you don't have to reach your hands, or they turn the cups upside down and they just go in, the ball will go in like an inch into the cup. So that's just one other suggestion, but it sounds to me like they're doing a good job in keeping our citizens happy and safe. So I'm happy with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess with all that information, is there a motion regarding the continued operation of the golf course?
Does there need to be?
Well, it was asked that we take a vote on it at last meeting, and it's on the agenda for a vote. So if the
Okay.
motion is that we continue operations or that we cease operations one way or another.
I'll make a motion that we continue operations at Linwood Golf Course following the rules that were provided earlier.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and properly second. We'll take vote by roll. Cornelia?
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
No.
Clark,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Coach V,
Yes.
vote carried,
All right, thanks.
motion passed.
Thank you. So, at this time, I will accept a motion regarding executive session.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second.
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Coach V,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you.